Welcome to Deep Dive. Today we have
Patty Cortese.
Patty. Tell us, welcome to the show first. It's
Thank you.
very, very nice to have you on.
Appreciate being
You've been on the top of my list, very top. And every time I talk to people about it, they say, hey, you're not ready for that caliber. You should get more things done and you should get more traction and you should get more followers. And I say, no, build it and they'll come. You focus on good conversations and again, the experience of people of so many years into 2 hours, 3 hours. That's what you focus on. So I am very privileged to be in your presence.
And I yours, Noor.
Thank you. And I wrote you a poem that I will send to you privately.
Thank you.
And maybe we get to read it sometime. But I want to start from your childhood. Tell us about where you're born, type of household you were born in, siblings, mom, dad, occupation, and high schools, colleges, middle schools, environment you grew up in. And you can name these places so people can connect to it. So give us a deep dive into from the time you were born till today.
Sure. So my parents were both born into Midwest farm families in Minnesota, which unfortunately is a dying. They're all corporate farms. There are not many very family farms left.
Actually,
Yeah,
who's buying them?
corporations.
Any big corporation specifics?
I don't know, but that
Where is the money in corporation farming?
well, it's like any.
They'll find a way.
Before they had Costco and Target, they had mom and pop stores that sold those individual things, right?
Interesting.
The end of the middle class, basically.
So
they grew up on family farms in very small towns. Both my parents, the towns they lived in were less than 1,000 people. In fact, they did not even have electricity or running water in their houses when they were.
You're joking.
Not kidding.
What year was this?
1939 and 1940. Yeah, because they've lived
That's
pretty rural.
80 years ago.
Yeah, 85, 86 years ago.
So can you tell us the name of the town and this, like what part of Minnesota?
Gosh. Okay, so my father was from a town called Gibbon, Minnesota, and my mother was from a little town called Bird Island,
Wow.
which is not an island at all.
Then why'd they call it Bird Island?
No idea.
They just want to have the metaphor. So maybe they feel like they're living in an island.
No idea.
And where did you guys live?
So, my father had no interest in farming as a profession. So he went to college. He went to the University of Minnesota, which is kind of the Cal Berkeley of Minnesota, very researchy engineering type of school. And he got a degree in electrical engineering.
Oh,
And he said he never even saw a computer in college. And then his whole career was in computers, but
you're joking.
never saw a computer.
What year did he go to college?
Let's see, he graduated in 1961 or 2.
So if they didn't see computer in college, how did they study? How did he do electrical engineering?
Just learned it on the job, learned it on the fly. Yeah. So my mother went to college in Minnesota. I've got a nursing degree, so registered nurse. My father, when I was 1, got a job with a company called Control Data, and they shipped several families out to Hawaii. And he had a job networking large mainframe computers together. And he had a top secret security clearance because they were working for the Navy. And his workplace was inside of a mountain at a pineapple field on the top.
You're joking.
No.
In Hawaii.
In Hawaii, yeah. Yeah, they wrote the software. Their system managed the supply chain for the Pacific Fleet in the Navy.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it was a big deal. Yeah, of course, I was just an infant, so I didn't really know anything about it. But they only lived there for a couple of years. Then we moved back to Minnesota, and so I'm the oldest of 4 kids. And in 1969, that same company moved several families up, 400 families, I think, from Minnesota to California, right as the Valley of Heart's Delight was turning into Silicon Valley.
Wow.
So that's when I came to California. I was 7.
Okay.
And we moved to Cupertino. Most of my neighborhoods were orchards.
Mm-hmm. What type of orchard?
The school passed orchards, apricot orchards, cherry orchards, prunes. Yeah. And then...
what did you go to school in Cupertino? Which one?
I went to Ragnar Elementary, and then I went to Kennedy Middle School.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would have gone to Monte Vista High School, but my parents moved to Saratoga, and so I ended up going to Lynbrook High School.
Wow. We had a guest who coaches at Lynbrook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good school, a little homogenous, but I think probably today it's a little more diverse. But
What do you mean homogenous?
this is all white kids.
I think it changed now.
I think it's a little more diversity.
I think there's maybe one minority that's large numbers of the school is one minority group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There might be one white kid today.
That's funny. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So graduated from Lynbrook. Couldn't decide what I wanted to do. So I was supposed to go to UC San Diego, but being the oldest, I didn't really understand how college worked. I don't know why my parents didn't really tell me how college worked. They both went to college, but I didn't really understand like a major, and that just felt like such a big commitment anyway. Like, oh my God, I have to pick the thing I'm going to do the rest of my life, you know? So I pivoted and went to De Anza College instead for first couple of years, which I actually tell kids, if you don't know what you want to do, if you don't need that freshman college dorm experience, how about save yourself a couple $100,000 and just go to community college for a couple of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a great experience because I got to explore lots and lots of different things. I took darkroom photography. I took weaving. I took American Sign Language.
You're joking.
No, I took all kinds of just really interesting. I mean, I took all my core classes too, of course, but I took a lot of other things that just exposed me to different possibilities, and had a great career counselor there that really took a lot of time with me and gave me some batteries of tests, you know, what do you call it? Tested to determine what I'm good at, what I like to do. And they pointed to occupational therapy. And so I looked around, did some research who was offering degrees in occupational therapy, and San Jose State was one of 3 schools in the state that offered that major at the time. I don't know how many offer it now, but I just thought, okay, I'll do that. So then went to San Jose State, majored in OT, and got out of school and said, now the heck, what do I do?
What is occupational therapy?
Occupational therapy is, so like if you look at the word occupation, right? It's how you spend your time. What do you occupy? How do you occupy your time, right? So occupational therapists really look at function in terms of activities of daily living. So physical therapists look at the gross motor functioning in the body, you know, how you're walking, how you're, you know, an occupational therapist will look at what do you need in order to put on your sock? What do you need in order to open a jar? You know, looking at how we can adapt activities or provide devices for support that allow people to achieve their highest level of functioning in their daily environment.
Okay. So If you had to describe it in one sentence, what would you say?
That occupational therapists support people in achieving their highest level of function in their daily activities. And occupation, like nursing, occupational therapy has a physical component to the profession, but they also have a mental health component to the profession.
Interesting.
And so it was a little ironic because when I got into occupational therapy because I had an aunt who was a quadriplegic after a severe car accident.
Wow.
And she told me how great the occupational therapists were for her. And I thought, whoa, that's good. I want to be able to help people like that. And so when I was in school taking courses and had to take all of our psych classes, I was a little resentful. Like, why do I have to take this class? Because I'm not here to work in the psych, right? Well, then I get out and that's...
You have to deal with people, because people usually with these accidents, I can include myself in it, you feel not okay.
Yes,
Your behavior changes.
That's also true, but I also ended up working in a mental health setting. Like my first job out of college was
My dad did too.
Catholic Charities.
No way.
Yeah, I was working in a program called the Vocational Learning and Treatment Center for Adults with Chronic Mental Illness.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. So I worked in restaurants to put myself through college, and I like that. I like restaurants.
I think restaurant work is the epitome of learning how to deal with people.
Right? Absolutely. Absolutely. I learned a lot about dealing with people. Plus, it was just fun. You get there and then there's a big rush and it's kind of an adrenaline thing. And you've got, everybody has to work together as a team and
to make that function.
Make it work. Yeah.
Any lasting restaurants that are still in business today?
Wow. No one's asked me that question. No. I don't think any of them.
What was their names for nostalgia?
For nostalgia, I worked at a place called Rustler's Steakhouse, and then I worked at a place called Coco's, which...
Wrestler and Coco?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I worked at Stanley's Bar and Grill, which doesn't exist anymore. I worked at Rose Garden Cafe. That doesn't exist anymore.
We know where that is, though.
In the Rose Garden. There you go. Couldn't pull that past you, nor.
Sorry. Was very thinking when you said wrestlers and then Coco. Got my attention.
Exactly.
So then after these jobs, you moved?
Well, so then so after putting myself through school, I graduated with this degree in occupational therapy. And I thought, oh, God, now what do I do?
So just before you move on, can you tell us when you were taking classes, how did you organize work with classes? How did you transport yourself between the two? Did you have to show up to classes after work and you didn't shower, didn't fix your hair, you didn't get your books, your backpack? Like, I want to normalize this conversation because I remember I used to show up to college with flour on, like, literally right here. Someone pointed out, hey man, your face is literally white. And I said, no, it isn't. And then I rubbed my face.
In restaurants too?
I worked at a bakery/restaurant.
Bakery.
But when I do this, it's like, it's painful. Something is going into my pores. I'm like, oh, they're definitely right. There's definitely flour on mine because I know how flour feels. So I want to normalize the conversation about working these ad jobs to reflect on and to see that there's a way out of it. Because lots of people feel stuck in these jobs.
And
it's okay. I remember I used to literally show up after an 18-hour shift, 16-hour shift, and I'm exhausted, but I just want to drill more on that for me to feel a sense of normalcy.
Yeah. Wow. Well, kudos to you. I never worked an 18-hour shift in that business. I'm subsequently in other businesses, but no, I mostly worked a lunch shift, and then I'd have an afternoon class or an evening class, and then I would work evening shifts. Some days split shift, like I would do both of those in the same day, but rarely.
Based on rush hour and so on?
Yeah, I had one or the other.
Life was simpler back then.
Pretty simple. I rode my bike a lot of places. Parking was a nightmare at San Jose State.
Still is.
So I just ride my bike, run on campus, right up to my class, and lock up my bike, and I'm there.
No one ever stole your bike.
No one ever stole my bike. I don't think anyone would want to steal my bike, but
Why? Because it was a beat down?
that was a beater bike. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you graduate from college and
And I did not know what I wanted to do. I had kind of a little bit of a life crisis, I guess. And I thought, I do love this restaurant work, but I can't see doing that the rest of my life. And I found out about a place in Hayward that was a restaurant that was also training people with developmental disabilities.
interesting.
Yeah, it was called Eden Express. And they would train people with developmental disabilities to work in the hospitality industry and then get them jobs and support them in getting jobs. And I went to Eden Express to one of their community trainings. I said, is there anyone who's doing this in San Jose? And they said, yeah, Catholic Charities. So I called up Catholic Charities. I said, I'll even come volunteer with you just so I can be part of this project. And so I started helping them with their grant writing. They were going to write a grant to get some restaurant space to work with their population was adults with chronic mental illness. And they ended up hiring me. They had openings. They ended up hiring me. And shortly after they hired me, the board said, no, we decided that a restaurant business is too risky. So we're not going to do that. So then we had to figure out, well, Patty's here. Now what are we going to do? So I wrote a grant for an Apple computer. It was an Apple IIe. You wouldn't even believe it. It's like a monochromatic green screen, 2 floppy disks this big, so that we could teach our clients how to do data entry. Because we had been doing. What do you call it? It was a mail house. We had clients. We were training them to process bulk mail, which people don't really do that anymore.
But it's very revolutionary to do the data entry and stuff like that.
Yeah, the data entry was a new thing, and the whole point of the work that we had was really teaching our clients not so much skills, although a little bit we wanted them to develop skills, but mostly the work habits, getting to work on time, showing up with appropriate grooming, communicating appropriately, those kind of things. That was really our focus. But we wanted to be able to pay them. So we actually had clients that paid us to do their mass mailing or do their data entry. Or
interesting.
Later, when the Macintosh came out, then we started doing desktop publishing, where we could include graphics and things like that.
2 birds in 1 stone.
Yeah. So that was how I was able to meld those my two paths, like transition from restaurants to working in occupational therapy within that setting. And that's ironically where I met a man named Dave Cortese.
Oh.
Because my job was 50% to train our clients in the job skills and the work behaviors that we're supporting them with. And the other 50% of my job was to get paying customers to give us the data entry work. And Dave had a little restaurant on the east side called Home Plate. And
Home Plate?
It doesn't exist anymore. But they were trying to build up their marketing. So they, people would come in the restaurant, drop off their business card, and so he would put them on a list and keep them on a mailing list.
Wow.
We did all that work for him.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your first impression when you met Dave?
That he's a pretty serious guy. He's pretty serious. He's like his demeanor is very serious.
Okay. So you're working at this place, you're grant writing, you are speaking with people on the job and off the job, trying to get them. So you're basically working physically at work. At the same time, off work, you're trying to get more people to sign up. So you're doing double the shift.
I don't know that I mean, the finding the contracts occurred during the workday too. So it was a pretty regular 9 to 5 type of job.
Okay. And all of a sudden, Mr. Cortese shows up. Okay. Give us the story. So we want to know the story.
Well, let's just put it this way. We were business colleagues for many years before we got into a romantic type relationship.
Really?
So, yeah.
And did he propose the question, or how did it?
I moved out of state for a while, and so I said, "Goodbye, I'm leaving. Here's the person who's taking my place." And then things didn't work out for me in Colorado, where I had moved to. So I came back, and then he came in one day and he said, "What are you doing here? I thought you left." I said, "Well, it's a long story." He said, "Oh, we should go get coffee or something." So
Wow.
we went and got coffee.
Was that normalized back then to go on a date for coffee?
I'm not sure I knew it was a date at first.
Okay.
It's what else would it have been, of course, but yeah.
And what happened?
One day turned into two, and like that. Yeah.
And you guys married?
Yeah. It took a while. 4 years. We did we dated for 4 years, and then we got married.
In today's standards, I don't think that's long at all.
Is that right?
Yeah, in today's standards, I don't know. My producer's saying no, it's not.
Oh, okay. No, that's true. My nephew dated his wife for 9 years before they got married. So that's true. It's
So how did your life change when you started to date Cortese and then marry, and then how did you fall into, how did your life change in terms of the jobs you picked, in terms of what you decide to do daily?
So before we got married, so his father was an elected official for many years. He was on the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors for 16 years, and then in the state assembly for Board of Supervisors for 12, state assembly for 16. And then he finally got termed out. And
what does termed out mean?
Termed out means that they put term limits. They applied term limit to the role, and then he couldn't run anymore. But when we were dating and when we got married, his father was still serving in the state legislature. So it wasn't in office when we met, but I knew that might be something he would be interested in at some point. And actually, a couple years before we got married, he did run for the Eastside Union High School Board, where I serve now, and he won a seat on the school board.
Wow.
So I helped him with his first campaign, and so that was fun, little thing we did together. And so from the school board, then people talked to him about maybe you should run for city council. And so he did that, ran for San Jose City Council, and he served on that council from 2000 to 2008. In 2006, he ran for mayor, but did not make it past the primary. And in 2008, some of his friends said, "Oh, you should run for County Board of Supervisors," which we had a couple of small kids at that time, and I was pretty burnt from the mayor's race. But I thought, well, you know what? If this is your destiny, let's go for it. Let's do it. So he ran for the Board of Supervisors and won in 2008. And Board of Supervisors has a term limit of 12 years, 3 4-year terms. So he was there until 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2020 ran for state senate, and that's where he is today.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And, you asked how did that affect my jobs?
And your life with the children.
And my life.
Your personal life.
Yeah. Yes. Um, yeah, it's interesting being married to an elected official because um, it's a little like living in a fishbowl.
Explain.
Well, I'll give you an example. When Dave was running for mayor, he ran again for mayor in 2014.
Mhm.
Oh no, this happened in 2006 when he ran. He ran in 2006, and there was a photo taken of him at the Vietnamese Tet Festival.
Vietnamese what?
The Tet, that's their New Year. It's end of January, early February, around that time frame. And very huge celebration at the Santa Clara County Fairgrounds. And he was running for mayor against Chuck Reed and Cindy Chavez at the time. So there's a photo of them, full color photo on the front page of the Mercury News, when the Mercury News was a paper newspaper.
Now it's on the email.
Right. And in full Vietnamese ceremonial traditional garb, yes. And I took the paper and I went and knocked on my daughter's room, and she must have been I think she was in 7th grade. And I said, "Look, honey, look at this picture of your dad." And she went, her face just went ashen, and she said, "I'm not going to school today."
Why?
That was embarrassing.
Why is it embarrassing?
She just to have your dad be on the front page of the paper like that was just
mixing cultures. This is something I really want to deep dive into. You're white.
Yes.
And your husband is white as well.
Yes.
I would say you have good intentions. And I've met with Dave.
It meant a lot to them that he was willing to embrace their traditional.
Of course. I mean, if you were
a lot to them, yeah.
If you were to visit my culture, I would dress you up according to my culture, and I'll take a picture and I'll say, "Oh my God, look, we made her part of our culture."
Right.
So why do people always, I shouldn't ask that question. Why did you mention that story of him in that?
Because the experience for my kids of being, they just wanted to go to school and be anonymous.
Well, they can still go to school and be anonymous, or is the father always around at school?
People know who their father is.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Going to school and saying, "Hey, I saw a picture of your dad in the paper today."
Positive or negative doesn't matter. It's embarrassing.
Positive or negative doesn't matter.
You think
they didn't want that? They didn't want that kind of attention.
Okay.
They didn't want to be known as, they didn't want to be outed in a public way like that. They just wanted to be just be quiet, go to school, do my thing, have my friends, go home.
Okay. So how did that affect Dave or his campaign?
How did what affect?
Picture of him.
I don't think it affected him. I thought he probably appreciated the publicity, to be honest. Yeah.
So there wasn't a negative downfall.
It wasn't a negative for him. No. But I'm just, you're asking about the impact on the family.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be hard just to be in the public eye like that all the time.
Really?
I would go to the grocery store. People talk to me about, "Hey, can you get Dave to?"
I did that.
And on my street.
I did that as well.
It's okay.
I'm guilty of that.
It's okay. Yeah, no, it's okay. I embrace it today, but it took a while too.
Is that part of the reacting and responding?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about transforming resentment and expectations into my commitment to service.
Sure.
My supporting him in being of service to the community is more important than whatever little story I have going on in my head about what else I might expect.
And do you think that's because you yourself came to the conviction that this is the life you're living and this is how it's going to go?
This is the life I'm living, and I'm committed to what he's up to. Like, I saw it as a partnership. He talks about public service like it's a ministry. And I wanted to be part of that. You know, I don't want to be the wife that's like, nah, campaigning is too hard on it. You know, I'm out, you know. I wanted to support. So to me, his role in office is our role in office.
Why?
Because it's something we do together.
And the kids, after that incident, moving forward, high school and college, how did they change? Did they understand this dad's job? And
yes and no. I mean,
there will be downfall every now and then.
Yeah. I mean, I think we could have done a better job of bringing them into seeing themselves as partners in the work too, rather than something to just put up with.
Sure.
I think that's, if I had to do it over, that's one thing I would be more engaging them more in being part of it.
Okay. So you guys met, you marry after 4 years, and then you see him. You're mentioning, actually, let's go back to the mayor thing in 2004, you said, or 2006?
2006 and again in 2013.
So in 2006 when...
14.
6 or 14?
6 and 14. He ran twice.
So in 2006, when there's a picture of him in the newspaper, he ran against how many people?
There were 5 people in that race, including him.
And who won?
Chuck Reed ended up winning that.
And how did he react?
How did Dave react to Chuck winning?
Yeah. Or to the whole race. How did he, like, is there a period of emotion depletion and dopamine crush after a big race like that? How did it affect him and the family? How did you move forward?
I think he was okay with it. Because, you know, after that election, he started spending more time with the kids. And I think he saw that maybe he dodged a bullet in a way. You know, maybe where he was just on the city council was just right.
Isn't it beautiful how sometimes we don't count on blessings, and sometimes some of the setbacks in our life are just the biggest blessings we can have?
He's really great about being able to do that, about, you know, counting the blessings, and we do that for each other.
Sure. Okay. So you meet, you marry, he runs, and when do you start doing the philanthropy and youth mentoring you do?
Well, he started out his political public service in 1992, like I said, running on this for...
I wasn't even born.
I know, right? So he was on the school board, and in 1994, he was part of a team of people that redesigned a continuation high school in the district. And
I went to that high school, by the way.
You went to Foothill High School?
Continuation High School.
Oh, Continuation High School, yeah. But that's a whole other topic. I think continuation high schools are amazing. And this Foothill became particularly amazing.
We need more funding and more care to these high schools.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah, that's no doubt. But they brought in, they were working, it was the redesign of the high school is a collaboration between the school district and the county of Santa Clara. And they created a program called School Linked Services, where the model was, instead of sending kids out into the community to get services, bring the services to the school. So they had a health nurse, they had drug and alcohol programs, they had any kid at the school that was on probation. They had one probation officer who was just signed to that school, and she would come out there, and she was not she was the kind of probation officer that wanted kids to succeed. Like, she was on their team, but they found the right person to do that job. And they brought in a mentoring program.
Beautiful.
And so he came home one day and he said, "Patty, you should be a mentor." Wow, okay. I had no idea what I was getting into, kind of like today. But that experience was probably one of the 10 most important things I ever did in my life, was to join that program.
Wow. So fast forward to the recent years. I don't know how recent. You've mentioned a program that I told you I want to partake in. Do you remember?
Remind me.
It is located in Milpitas. And you go there and you work with people who need help.
Oh, at Elmwood?
Tell us more about it. I didn't want to expose your privacy until you decide to share. So tell us exactly what you do and what that looks like.
Okay. So I'm currently working I'm just a part-time person working with a program called, it's a nonprofit called Carry the Vision. And we are all about creating spaces for healing and recovery and transformation for people who have been systems impacted, like people dealing with addiction and homelessness and incarceration, mental health. So I just teach a little class once a week at the men's jail in Milpitas at Elmwood.
So the men's jail in Milpitas is called the Elmwood?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you get to do that? What do you do when you get there? What kind of experience you've been having?
Yeah, so I've known the executive director of that program for many, many years. And, we check in from time to time. And a couple of years ago, we were having a conversation, and I just offered her some coaching on something in her own life that she was dealing with. And she's like, "Oh my God, we need you to be able to do this for the people that we work with in the jails." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So she just got me signed up, and I just started leading these courses that are very similar to the work I did in youth mentoring programs. One of the courses I teach is called Living on Purpose. And it's all about being mindful and self-aware and learning how to respond and not react, and creating a future that is by design, not by default, right? I mean, one of the things we say is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, right? We didn't make that up, obviously. But unless you consciously stop and reflect, that insanity is going to take over. It's just going to be the autopilot that runs us, right? And so I bring a lot of love into that space. I mean, the guys I work with know that I want them to win, that I want them to thrive, not just survive.
Anyone that left an impression on you?
Oh yeah, they all do in their way. I've spoken with a lot of them who didn't have one or both parents, and the impact that's had on their lives. Not having a father or not having any parents. There's one young man I worked with in there who his mom left when he was 19 months old. And so the father, I think, who was probably addicted to some substance, tried to raise him until he was 5. And then the courts took him when he was 5 and put him in foster care. And he was placed with a family with a completely different language, completely different culture. And he just says he just remembers being so confused about where he was and what he was to be doing. And in those days, there wasn't a lot of support for kids in foster care. So he didn't get a lot of counseling. He didn't get a lot of intervention, So he himself got addicted into alcohol and substances, which is why would we be surprised? That's the thing. You talk about the insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different result. A lot of times that's said, talking about the people who are impacted by alcohol or addiction or things like that. But it can also be said about those of us who are working in the system, right? We create these institutions that don't address the underlying issues. Then why should we be surprised when people reoffend or they end up in our carceral systems or homeless in the first place? Why should we be surprised when they go back after they've not had any intervention to deal with their issues, right? If they haven't had an opportunity to develop any new skills or any new perspectives, why would we be surprised? That's on us.
I had a conversation with, I think this person was an Oakland resident. And he said to me, forget who it was, honestly. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember who the person was. He said something that was really shocking. He said, look at the Chinese neighborhood in Oakland. He said, do you see any Chinese homeless guy on the street? I did see one later on, but I didn't see any when I was there. And his answer or his question was so strong that I looked really hard. Like I go on Sundays to Berkeley, and I would go every Sunday after finish the training. I would drive by downtown Oakland just to see a person that looks like he's Chinese, to prove to myself, oh no, there is a Chinese person, or to just investigate, to just research it. And I said, okay, well, why do you think? He goes, because they take care of their own. And they look after their own families and they help one another. And a friend of mine came back from, I don't remember what country. We had this conversation on the podcast, actually. And he said, you don't see homeless people in the Middle East or Asia in general. And I said, no, there are homeless people in Asia and the Middle East. And he said, yes, but with the amount of war that's taken place in the Middle East, you would expect insane numbers of homeless people. And I said, okay, well, what's the point that's being made? He said, culture matters. How you treat one another matters. And how you look after one another matters. And at the same time, while I say this, I think the issue shouldn't be left or right issue. It needs to be common sense issue. And what we see in San Francisco is not right for local residents. But at the same time, it's not right for these people. And a friend also sent me a video of how they ask these city managers that work with homeless people and how much they make per year. There's so much funding into it, but there doesn't seem to be a common sense policy to teach these people to not reoffend, to teach these people new skills, to teach these people. I've literally could have ended up homeless. Literally, and you know that. The producer could end up homeless. And at some point in our life, we were homeless. And all it took is good people extending a helping hand. And my foster family has literally, physically, metaphorically, in any way, shape, or form, they transformed my life from not being able to, feeling shame to ask for help, as simple as, can you hand me a spoon? Or can I get the sugar? Or I'm hungry. Like if I would say hungry, I feel a great deal of shame. And yes, my question is, where do you stand on that? And where does Dave stand on it? And how can we have common sense, in your opinion? This is outside of policy. This is your personal opinion. Where can we draw the line to make sure residents are not affected and homeless people are taken care of? Where is the line needs to be drawn, and what type of services and what type of help we should provide both the homeless people first and I say this with love because I personally have experienced homelessness. So, and I see you tearing because this is a very personal topic to you. And I feel really bad that I'm asking this because I can see that you're tearing down.
It's okay. It's a good question. I don't know that I have an answer for you. I don't think there is a line to draw. But I will tell you that what it takes, I believe what it will take is for us to create spaces where people who are dealing with homelessness can experience their humanity, and that people in the larger community can experience their humanity.
And I'm sorry if I'm sounding crude when I asked about the local residents.
No, that's fine. You're not wrong about that. And I'll just make one. I mean, we could have a whole nother podcast talking about incarceration. But
let's do it next time. Let's have that topic. Next topic would be that.
Sure, for sure. In September, Dave and I went to Norway to on a trip to study prisons.
I am familiar with it, and I've read a lot about it recently and how the U.S. is changing.
Yes, and we are changing. Thank goodness. When we were there, we received a lot of training, and one of the professors that spoke with us was part of the original Stanford prison experiment.
Oh my God.
He was the grad student who
What's their name?
That all up. His name is Dr. Craig Haney. He's a professor at UC Santa Cruz right now.
Can we interview him?
You can ask.
You'll make that intro.
One of the things that he said was, he was talking about the history of incarceration in the United States. And he said, context is decisive. Meaning, when we treat people like they're
animals, they will act like it.
They will act like it. And when we, similarly, when we treat homeless people like they're a nuisance, they're lazy, they're whatever. All of the stories, all the interpretations that we want to put on why people are there. What we see is the label. What we see is the story we're telling ourselves. What we see is the interpretation. We do not see the humanity. We do not see the human being that's behind all that. And I think that's what it's going to take, is really creating spaces where people can do their healing and recovery work. There's a wonderful nonprofit downtown, right? Shine, write this one down too. Recovery Cafe, downtown San Jose, does amazing work about creating spaces for people who've been impacted by homelessness to do their healing and recovery, so they can get back in touch with their own humanity and their own dignity and be seen.
So, do you mind if I dig more into this?
Go ahead and dig. I don't know what that's where I have to offer, but sure.
What is the root cause of the issue, in your opinion? Or I know there isn't one answer.
There is not one answer. It's a very complex situation. But one thing was an aha for me when Dave was running for Senate. I had to do a lot of writing and research, to help him prepare for candidate interviews and questionnaires and things like that. And I ran across this statistic that said, and I'm going to get the dates wrong, but it was something like I'm making this up, but we'll just say from 2000 to 2010, Silicon Valley added 500,000 new jobs. And in that same period, they added 50,000 housing units.
That's insane.
That's insane. Where are people going to live? Right? So you bring all these people in here for the jobs, and then the jobs come with, people with families and things like that. And so where are people going to go? And so I think a lot of people got pushed out of the housing at that time. And you can't, building housing takes a long time. Every municipality has a tremendous process, right? And any builder has a tremendous process to, identify the project, raise the money, come up with the plans, present them to the city, get the permits. It's a very long, involved process. And so to respond quickly enough to deal with that tremendous job growth, it's been a huge backlog, and we couldn't build housing fast enough. In fact, some cities, it's been a fight because they don't want to build the housing. They like because in order to build the housing to accommodate that many people, you have to build pretty dense housing.
Why can't you build out the city and just slowly build out the city, like near Dublin, Gilroy?
Well, because the further out you spread, the more difficult it is to support it. Because you've got, public safety becomes challenging when you have more square footage to cover, right? More square miles to cover. You have to have more fire stations, more police stations, more people to get further and further out. When people are more concentrated, you need less infrastructure to support that.
But not until recently the culture started to change. Also, I feel like the culture wasn't ready to. So, simple example I would give is the ADU unit.
Mm-hmm.
Can be that for the in-laws, but many people rent it out.
Right.
There wasn't such a culture.
The ADU became one of the tools in a policymakers' tool bank to help address the whole housing crisis.
But they didn't do a good job, in my opinion. Why does it take so much money to get a permit for an ADU? Why there's always more taxes on things? If it's something simple, don't tax it overly, and don't charge, even if people will take advantage of it, people that don't need to, people in other areas that don't need to have ADUs built and they still build it. Who knows? Maybe it's for their kids. Maybe it's for their extended families. Maybe it's for Airbnb. Just build it and they'll come. And so I think most recently I was talking with someone about this. And they're saying it's an insane number to get a permit to build an ADU.
Yeah, well, we just crossed out of my area of expertise.
Well, let's go back to it then. You talk about you said, it takes time to build these units and so on and so forth. Why is there so much red tape around getting anything done? When China, other countries, and recently even the conspiracy about Russian infrastructure, streets and neighborhoods and trains being so well done and so taken care of in the midst of the war, why are we not? Even this Central Valley train.
Why
is it taking? What's going on? Why are we moving at a snail speed? And why there's so much red tape?
I don't know. All I can do is ask the question like you do.
Do you see your husband being a decision maker in these circles?
So historically not, with regard to, certainly housing. He's been involved with housing and local transportation for a long time. But he just was recently appointed to the California Transportation Commission less than a year ago. So he's starting to get up to speed on issues like high-speed rail. But as I understand it, every city has their own process. So it's a lot to navigate.
I understand that. And I understand Trump is disrupting some of that, where he will, I don't know exactly, but he's hiring some people that will make a lot of people happy and a lot of people upset. And here's my question. We're paying taxes and we're paying so much of it. So much of it. Why are all these things that are progressive agree with it and conservatives agree with it? Why is it not getting done? Everyone says the US is number one country in the world in terms of economical and technological advancement. Why can't we figure this out?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why 2 years ago, Dave called for an audit of the homeless money that
Wow.
state was investing in cities.
Tell us more about it.
Well, I just know he called for the audit, which is a way to increase accountability, right? I don't know what happened after that.
Okay. And what do you think, in your opinion? This is your personal opinion. What do you think the way forward for peace and for if I can ask you different questions, but I guess I wouldn't play that game with you. I would just tell you what I think. And then I would also ask you the question at the end. What I think there needs to be a culture shift to maintain these people.
Maintain these
homeless people.
Okay,
which I talk about them. I personally was one. And now talking about foster youth and talking about people from broken homes, if that's a word. And I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone listening to this, which I was a part of. I don't think I'm whole after doing all of that. I think I am professionally whole. I think I do a lot of work, and I was extremely privileged by people like yourself and my family that if I spend 2 lifetimes, I wouldn't get done with all the amount of help and the type of help they gave me. Things as simple as to just not say the word hate, but to say the word love. So, culture change, meaning looking at these people as humans, but sometimes your hand will be bitten. I remember buying a meal, and then I was with someone very close to me, and I gave that meal to the homeless person, and he yelled at us so much, he shocked us both in a very loud noise. And I saw the trauma, and then I remembered, referring to you, how do you respond? If that culture shifted, which is shifting in many cities, how do you hold accountable? And I sincerely am asking this question, your personal opinion. I ask this question because I suffered with it. And not until recently, we got basic support for foster youth just in San Jose, and other cities don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And most foster youth experience homelessness more than once or twice. And they're just in the time they're in high school or middle school. How do we, and please take your time responding to this, and I keep re-asking the question, how do we make sure these sad stories don't take place again? But at the same time, common sense policies, the money is there. The allocation maybe is not there, but there is money there. There's a lot of support to it. And I support the audit, and I support continuous audits. But even when the audit happens, do you know who gets hurt the most? The homeless and people at risk. Not the people working around them. And I think, let me say this too. People that helped me have been people around nonprofits and social work, whether it's county, city, or nonprofit. These are angels. These are God sent. But somewhere in that process, there isn't accountability, and the funding, either it's bad, there is money, but it's not allocated, or there is no streamlined process. And I just tell you this, people thought it's okay if I don't graduate high school. And it's very offensive. Oh, it's okay. You don't have to graduate high school, because they have a ceiling for these kids. And then later these kids, like if these adults that I look up to tell me, oh, that's my ceiling, why would I do anything better? So I do think there's culture shift that needs to take place. But why are all these programs and all these governments, especially in California, are not doing enough. And what they do is, I don't know if this is controversial or not, where the program tell people, like they would give them drugs to slowly wean out of it. I think there needs to be, for these programs, which are good for some people and helpful, why aren't programs strong support to help them get off of the cycle of, when I was at foster youth, they used to say, cycle of violence, and how do you break it? Where is the funding? Where is the support? Where is the program? And this is bipartisan issue for both Democrats and Republicans. Your personal opinion.
Well, that's a lot.
I'm sorry.
Um,
I'm saying this because I have my own personal experience with it.
Sure. So I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. Except to say that for myself, I would step back and take a look at how does life unfold for all of us? And what is there to discover here? Sometimes we discover our place through our traumas and through our challenges and through our quote failures. So I don't really believe there's any failure. There's just
setbacks. Not even some.
There's just, you didn't get the result you wanted, and now you get to go do it again or do something else, right? So that, again, failure to me is just an interpretation. But it could be a painful experience when when we confront our interpretations and our expectations. It can be painful. And so for me, my whole life is about creating spaces for healing and recovery and transformation. And I think we need to do that individually, and I think we need to do that collectively as a society, right? Looking at, systems where we have winners and losers. You look at what's happening with our economy, especially with AI coming on, right? Let's not forget what an economy is for. An economy is for everybody to make a contribution and to have the economy sustain them, right? So this idea about someone creating technology that could eliminate jobs, well, okay, that's fine, but where are those folks going to go, right? What's the contribution that they can make? So I think it takes a completely radically different point of view to look at how do we evolve socially, emotionally, as well as technologically as a human.
Without leaving anyone behind.
Without leaving anyone behind as a human culture, right?
I think there needs to be a weaning off period.
A what?
AI is coming.
Yeah.
And other advances are coming.
Right.
And the whole world will follow what we do. And they will learn from our experience. And so they'll learn from the bad mistakes we made, and they'll learn from the good experiences we made. And everyone learns from it. And I've seen it in my own life when I was living abroad. So AI is coming whether we like it or not. But there need to be a weaning off period for people to see how and what jobs they're going to go into. And it's the responsibility of people who are coming off with this technology to see how and when this would make sense.
So I think I'm not sure many people in decision makers in corporations are ready to shoulder that responsibility. So I think you do need policymakers to provide those guardrails.
So, okay.
It's not always popular, right?
So here's a question then, and maybe I can recenter it. One of the new steps that I see everyone is doing, jumping on this train. Let's say you have a homeless board that you're a part of. So that what they would do, just like diversity assignments, they would point 1 or 2 board members who are former homeless.
They had that.
But that's recent advancement. That wasn't always the case. These boards were usually very hard to get into, let alone if you have the experience or the background. It used to be a shame to have that background be part of this board. Like, what could you add to this board?
Well, I know in Santa Clara County, they have a lived experience advisory board, both people coming out of incarceration and for people in homelessness. So those.
How long has this been in?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure. But you're right. To your point, it's not been long, maybe 5 years.
And the number of people into these places is not that big. So their power to make decisions, because sometimes I talk to people and they tell me my own experience, meaning how I should have, would have, could have. And I sincerely respect what they're saying and I like it. But it caused me a lot of pain and sorrow. And it caused me to rethink lots of things and it affects my decisions forward.
Yeah.
You don't know how the mind and the body would react to certain experiences that you have when you're a child and then moving on in life in general. And everyone needs a strong support system. Mom, dad, aunt, friend, mentor, you call it.
Neighbors, teachers.
And I'm extremely blessed, extremely blessed. And I've lived in many countries. None of these countries had the support system that the US had. So I'm extremely grateful for the support that I had in this country that I'm very, very proud of. And I know I'm asking you all these questions. I'm extremely grateful for the US and for all that it's given me. And I think it's not even probably, it's my favorite country and I'm very proud to be an American. But if you don't criticize your own, you can never get better. So the steps to hire people into boards is a good step. What other steps do you think we could take to make tangible changes, not just theoretical changes, tangible changes?
Well, again, I think policy is a big part of it. You know, the changes that the weaning off that you talked about, that can be managed through policy. And we're doing that. Dave is already looking at how can you, as we transition to a green economy, how can you bring good quality labor jobs along with those, right? So you're not pushing people out. You're redirecting their skills into so that they can be viable in the new economy.
And what is green economy?
Green economy is
your definition.
Sustainable industries, just sustainable energy.
And how do you manage sustainable economy when you have to build housing that is not, and density that's not necessarily sustainable? Not just the houses that are being, the physical materials or everything going to these houses that's not sustainable, but the fact that we have to build more, you're taxing Earth more. Where is the line between those two?
Oh, now you get it. That's a big ethical question, right?
It's philosophical questions, yeah.
I think when I graduated high school, there were probably 5 billion people in the world, and today there's 8 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is that even sustainable?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you do about that?
Mm-hmm.
I would say, there are some natural forces that are helping with that. We have the advent of birth control and kids. Young people are having kids later; they're having less kids. But that's still pretty radical growth. I don't know how long we can do that and have enough resources in this planet to sustain that. And I guess if you're Elon Musk, you just think about how do you go to Mars and make a mess up there.
Do you think Earth will take care of itself?
I think the Earth is going to be fine. I'm not sure we'll be around.
So is the advent of birth control is a good invention?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I don't know where we're going with that.
I'm sorry.
Uh, uh,
I just think since you're in policy and your husband in policy, I think there's a lot of inventions that have been made that had made the intended effect and more other effects, I would say.
let's put it this way. My mother's father
Mm-hmm.
was one of 13 children. My mother's mother was one of 14 children.
Wow.
And my mother was one of 7. So how sustainable is that?
But don't you see, like, grandfather, the sons, like, you deplete the number of kids you have because every generation switches off in the way they think and the way they go about their life. Don't you think it's a natural progression where people are just like, and you said it, people have less kids and later now.
Less kids later because they can.
Exactly. So they can, and they can't, because life is expensive and everything around it is expensive.
Mm-hmm. Outside.
What are you excited about for the future?
I'm just excited to just continue to see this amazing life unfold.
And what do you,
Next? Yeah, I don't know. It's not anything. I'm not excited to go to Disneyland or something. I don't have anything like that on my horizon. I just, what excites me is being in the presence of people discovering who they are.
what is your message for young people?
When I was working in youth mentoring, the first thing we first told the mentors and then told the kids, if you want to grow, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Wow.
Doing the inner work it's hard work. It's not comfortable work, but it's the most rewarding thing we can do as humans.
And what are some of the things you think we should take on as policy and as way of life? Can be specific or general. Some things you're advocating for and pushing for. Not your husband, you.
I want young people to know that they're not their thoughts, that they're not their past, that they're not the expectations that people have on them. They're not the labels that they have and that other people have put on them or that they created about themselves. I want young people to know that their identity isn't carved in stone, that they're not stuck with it, that they could be anything, be, not do, be anything they want.
What's the difference?
Doing is activities, it's skills, but being, like to be is to be loving, be compassionate, be responsible.
And in policy?
It's a different level.
And in policy?
Accountability. I would want to see policy that really leverages what works and understanding how humans operate in the circumstances they're given, right? So policies around correctional systems that recognize that if we treat people like monsters, they're going to behave like monsters and we shouldn't be surprised. Policies that treat people, that recognize the humanity of people, will result in people who reconnect with their own humanity. And that has an impact on all of us.
And what is the biggest lesson you've took from working in this line of work? Your personal.
That I'm never done. It's an ongoing, daily, 24-hour thing that I'm not fixed either. I'm not. My identity of who I am is not concrete either. Like I heard was a neuroscientist say the other day that we think of ourselves as a thing, but we're really more of a process. No, just continually unfolding.
Can I give you a little information that I think would be interesting to hear?
Sure.
You said process. And in the process, I think we struggle, we grow. And you said we carve ourselves. You carved in stone earlier, right?
We're not, I said, we're not carved in stone. We're dynamic.
We got to keep
right?
changing, keep evolving.
Yeah.
So when Ramadan comes, Ramadan for Muslims is the process of fasting.
I'm well aware.
But you're not just fasting off food and water.
Right.
I think we discussed that. You're fasting to be a better human being, even if it's for that day.
Mm-hmm.
And in Islam, they say you're committing jihad. Jihad means struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the struggle, they say in Islam, they say jihad in nafs, the struggle of the self.
That's right.
And so I remember when Ramadan comes, I would really work really hard on treating people nice and picking my word carefully and not cursing and not behaving in selfish ways. And I see you do a lot of that. I see you always going out of your way to do things for other people and to do things that I myself don't know how you do, but you still have the power to do it. And there is usually when I used to do some of the work that you're doing, I feel depleted and I feel hopeless. How do you not feel that way?
By making myself an instrument for it. It's not me doing the work. I'm a conduit. I always say there's no greater joy in this world than to be used by God.
Wow. Are you faithful? Do you have a faith?
I have a lot of faiths.
Okay.
Yes.
Spiritual.
Yes. I love religions. I love religions. But yeah, mostly it's my spirituality that informs my work.
Can you tell us also about your work with Pivotal?
Oh, sure. So I'm a pretty recent.
What is Pivotal to? Tell us.
Pivotal is a nonprofit that supports young people in and emerging from foster care system in completing their education. So graduating high school, going on to college, or getting a trade program or some other kind of certification, but just supporting people in transitioning out of foster care and becoming successful adults. And we do that through intensive coaching, support, love, opportunities, financial support, things that the kids could rightly count on from their parents. They were there.
I don't put a lot of stock in many organizations that work with kids and that who are struggling. I sincerely put all of my stock in Pivotal. There are some things that need to change, but I put all of my stock in them because the amount of attention to details and the amount of love and care is out of this world. But I'm going to ask you a hard question. And I hope you answer it. And this is out of love, because if we don't criticize our own, we don't get better. What is one thing, and you're sitting on the board with Pivotal, right? What is the one thing, or one of the many things that, or two or three, whatever you think is right? What do you think needs to be changing within Pivotal or evolving?
I think there's a tendency to work with young people who are already ready to do the work. And clearly, because of the way the funding is provided, it's our incentive.
I was just going to say, yep.
But there are a number of young people who don't even know the path to become ready.
I have 2 friends that I want, but they don't know and they don't qualify.
Yeah.
They have all the experience, they have all the background, but they don't qualify.
Right.
And it's not Pivotal's fault. It's the funding and how it's structured.
That's right. So I think the funding structure, I've been advocating for working with the funders to change the model, because some young people need a lot of support before they can even see themselves being in a place to succeed.
Okay.
And I think we need to do that work. I think that work is a good investment as a community, as a society.
What are your hopes and dreams for the future? And what do your personal and for the world as well? So it's not just you and your family, but it's also for the future and the world and California and the country as well.
If I had a magic wand and could just give everybody new eyes to see the humanity in each other, that would be my dream for the future. Whether it's homeless people on the street, whether it's Israelis and Palestinians, whether it's, people in incarceration and gang members, if we could all learn to see each other, bring curiosity, bring compassion, bring understanding, it'd be amazing.
That's beautiful. That's very beautiful. And in Arabic, they have tradition where they say back in the day when people used to go from tent to tent to visit, they say, first thing, say the hard thing first.
Mm.
So always say the hard thing first. The second thing is to just listen and feed people. So you come over to my tent, you want to ask for my daughter's hand in marriage, just a big ask. And so what I do is I give you coffee and I serve you food. Because when people break bread,
Good.
they start to see each other's humanity. And I really sincerely hope that everyone could at some point learn how to do that or do that more often and show humanity, be hurt, be betrayed, be bugged, and then choose to continue to show their humanity and to not feel like idiots when they keep showing. And I'm guilty of that too. I sometimes feel that way too, and I hold myself. Sometimes I fail. I don't show my humanity, but I keep trying. And it's a perfect ending because this is why I really wanted to meet with you. I see the humanity that you exude to other people. And I've seen a lot of goodwill people like yourself, but they did not show humanity like you did. And I sincerely mean it.
Thank you
So
for having me.
thank you so much for coming on. We should bring you again for foster youth or foster care specifically.
Happy to.
And we'll have one more person with us that will ask you hard questions, but you got to promise that you'd come on.
Happy to come back.
Thank you so much, Patty.
Thanks, Laura.
This has been Deep Dive, and hope you guys enjoyed the show. Wow. Patty. Look at this. You look gorgeous.